Welcome, truth seekers and trailblazers, to the Bigfoot, Wildman, and Boogers show, the podcast where shadows move, legends breathe, and Bigfoot might be closer than you think. Every week, we trek deep into the unknown, diving into the eyewitness accounts, breaking down the evidence, and exploring the mystery behind North America's most mysterious cryptid.
We're here to bring you real encounters and all the wild, weird, and wonderful things that go along with Bigfoot, Wildman, and Boogers. Whether you're a diehard believer, a backyard camper, or just curious, we're thrilled to have you with us.
Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. It helps us grow the tribe and bring even more wild encounters out of the woods and into your ears. Now, grab your gear, steady your nerves, and let's take the first step into the woods with Ernie, and I'm going to butcher this, Davieau.
Davieau.
Either way.
Hello Ernie.
Hi. Good to see you too. I'm doing all right. Yeah, a little bit cold here too. We're in we live in southern Kentucky now. We just moved here just a couple of months ago from Ohio, and we're there for a few years. So
yeah, well, your winters will be less severe.
Well, I originally lived up near the Canadian border, so.
I'm in Minnesota, so yeah.
I understand. Yeah, absolutely. Snowmobiling and.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a little much. I think I'll stick right where I am.
Well, Marianne, it was 70 degrees the other day for us, and usually we've got snow by now, but it was just bizarre.
Yeah. It's been 70 degrees over the weekend here. I just literally rolled in a couple of hours ago from Arkansas. And it was even warmer down there because we were on the, Texarkana area. So yeah, it's warm. So Ernie, tell us about yourself, how you got into this.
Oh, okay. Actually, it happened to me about roughly 38 years ago.
Okay.
And I was quiet for quite a long time, over 30 years. Because of the encounter, which you'll hear in a little while, I was really hesitant to ever come out with this. I was basically waiting for somebody else to come up with something similar to this, and then I could lock elbows with them and make a stand. But so it really, and I have to include this because I never looked at it before. I knew about the Patty Gremlin film there. Patterson Gremlin film, and I just figured that was just a fluke, that it was a once in a lifetime for somebody, and maybe they're only out there, and maybe that's the last one of its kind ever. Because I my generation, anyways, growing up, guys, out there hunting and everything, and with our hunting party, I'm part Native American. 87% Metis Cree, but a lot of things were hidden from us, and the elders, they never spoke of anything like this. So in hindsight, when this happened, I started going back, why me? And then thinking about, have I ever seen anything in the woods, like tracks or anything like that? And I did. Thinking back on it, I would have to talk to my brother about it and say, do you remember? And just to share with you really quick, as part of the story, we were going to be going out. Our hunting party was going to be going out on a hunt, but my great uncle couldn't come to us. We had to go to him. So our hunting area changed drastically, and I was really not pleased with that, but I understood that. And as we left, we had about 6 inches of snow on the ground. And mind you, I was only about 9 years old at the time, but you would have a gun. It'd be a borrowed gun. Somebody would have an extra one hanging around. It was my brother and I was the older of the two. And we were told to go down the what we call a fire road, while my dad and his uncle, proceeded to take up the right-hand side of us through a set of pines. Since he knew what was going on in the area, I guess the plan was going to be that he was going to flush them, and if they came across out in front of my brother and I, we would harvest a deer.
Right.
But they told us, they said, if you've seen anything strange or anything like that, we had a walkie-talkie on us to immediately click the walkie-talkie. Don't talk, just click it. And all of us would go back to where we started from, the point we started from. And indeed we did. We came across barefoot tracks in the snow. I don't know anything about this barefoot track stuff. I have no idea what's going on.
Sure.
And also, yeah, all between my brother and I, we're looking at the tracks. I'm going, hey, Fran,
Right.
Mhm.
I think we got a guy up running around up here, unless, my dad and my great uncle are trying to prank us.
Right.
Uh, obviously, the guy had to be naked or something because they're barefoot
Well,
tracks.
right. Why is somebody barefoot in the snow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of people say, well, we don't have any evidence. Well, you know what? Tracks are evidence that you're tracking a deer, the deer's in front of you or something. Okay. So this was
Absolutely.
definitely something. There was a man running around the woods in the middle of nowhere barefoot. And that was like, he's got to be crazy. So we got back to our meeting spot, and they asked us what happened, and we told them. And my father went off to the side with my great uncle away from us, and they would be speaking French. Later on in life, I learned that they were not speaking Parisian French. They were speaking Métis French.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it tickled, they didn't want us to know what was really going on.
Right.
And they told us to stay there, that they were going to go check the tracks out, and they'd be back. And I'm just guesstimating it was about a half an hour. And they came back, and they separated. And my father came over to my brother and I, and he said, look, we can't hunt here. And I'm like, what, we came all this way. You mean we can't hunt here? He goes, no, we were told we couldn't hunt here, and we were asked to leave. And I'm like, so I'm saying to my own self, because you don't want to challenge your elders,
Right.
you telling me that this crazy man is running around probably naked or something told you can't hunt here? I'm glad I'm armed,
Right.
So we left.
Yeah.
That was the earliest, kind of the earliest thing that I had ever actually seen, like tracks or anything like that. We've had other things happen around the house, but we always laid it off to be something other than what that was going on. So it pretty much covers it. Although my military background or anything like that did help me out. I have a background in martial arts, which greatly helped me out to be able to control, that fight or flight thing that's going on, and
Right.
that, and anything else like Uncanny Valley, it's up for grabs. It all depends on the circumstances, your distance, your the lighting conditions, and your length of time. The more time you have with something, because the average encounter is only between 5 and 11 seconds,
Exactly.
and I'll refer to these pictures that are behind me because I had an artist work with me for almost 7 months on these. And these are iterations from what I seen that day. So the more time you have with something, the better you're going to be able to describe what it is that's going on.
Right.
And that's pretty much it, because I was just totally naive to anything really being out in the woods. Although, like I was saying earlier, my generation growing up hunting in the woods, you always wanted to at least see the biggest deer out there. And I always kind of thought, it'd be really cool if something like that happened, but then I washed it off. You're talking, I don't know how many years later this happened to me.
Right.
And I would either go out with just my brother, because my father was getting older, so he really couldn't go out, or I hunted alone. And the area that I chose to hunt that day was very steep in history or legend. Okay.
Yeah.
And to this day, they still have a lot that's going on there. And people to this day are afraid to go in there. And so I chose that area because I just figured that there isn't going to be anybody else in the area. They're going to want to stay as far away as they can. And I had a bad habit. I was just so relaxed when I hunted. A lot of times I really didn't care. That's like fishing for me. It's an annoyance to catch a fish because I had to take it off the hook and do this and that, So, but So I would fall asleep. I'd take a nap out in the woods and sometimes get chewed out by elders or whatever from that. But I had a habit of doing that. But that day, if you want me to go right into it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah, because it's the that's just pretty much the background of it. I just didn't really care, even though they had it in the newspapers and everything growing up. Somebody thought they seen something. I just said, gee, that's just, I don't know. This it's too close to a house or whatever. I didn't know anything about these things.
Right.
So, um, anyways, doing a lot of scouting in that area. I used to take a topographical map. They're easy to come by. You go down to your local bookstore and you could get a topographical map. Buy a topographical map down there for like 50 cents or 75 cents. And then I would take that on my scouting expeditions and I'd be marking down deer trails and food sources and
Yeah.
deer runs on it, the whole gamut. I would write all that stuff down. So I knew pretty much how I was going to enter this hunting area, and it was on Drake Mountain. It's right next to the Granville Reservoir and right adjacent pretty much to the Cobble Mountain Reservoir, which is really steep in history for a lot of reasons, and people just don't like to go around there. And um, the federal government actually keeps an eye on that. They don't really want people to be going in there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a story about that in itself because yeah, we've fished there before, and we've had friends of ours who fished there, and they actually will send in people to get you out of there, meaning they know right where you are. And
Oh, wow.
indeed, there was one time where I was fishing, and they came right in. They couldn't find us, but we could see them. We had eyes on them, and we knew that they knew exactly where we were, which would mean to me that they had ground sensors. So if you knew that I was there, then you definitely know anything else is in there.
Exactly.
So, but that morning, I determined how to approach that mountain that I was going to hunt on because I wanted to get to the top of the mountain. And so I knew by the way the wind was blowing which way I was going to come in. So I took that to my advantage. I kept that wind blowing in my face, and I entered from the Granville Reservoir area and proceeded to go up an old fire road or farm road or whatever anybody wants to call it. You put both of them together because when there was forest fires, they would use those old logging roads or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. And I knew that the deer that I was after, it was the last day of hunting season in December. And I knew they were bedded down. They liked to bed down about, I think it was about a little bit more than halfway up the side of that mountain. There was a big outcropping of boulders, three big, huge, giant boulders. I think one of them is called Lookout Rock or something, and it's like 40 feet tall. That's just one of them. And there's three of them there. So my plan was to get in as close as I possibly could and probably get my harvest right there. And then I wouldn't have too much of a problem getting back to my vehicle with my harvest.
Sure.
Well, I got within close proximity of that outcrop and the boulders, and I heard them get up. I heard the deer jump up. Anybody who's hunted, they know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And they proceeded straight up towards the top of that mountain. Well, that fire road or logging road that I was on actually went a little bit to the left as you're going up the mountain, and then it paralleled the same path line that they were taking. So I had a choice to make: either get behind them, which probably they would have heard me. I would never been able to see them because they had the higher ground, or try to get out in front of them. And so I chose that path right there, is to try to get out in front of them. So it was kind of cold out that morning. It was crispy. There was no snow. There was frost on the ground, but it was, sporadic. And there's a lot of flat rocks like sandstone, things like that I was able to walk on. So I was doing what we would call a two-step. You'd go toe, heel, toe, heel. It would actually make you not sound like a bipedal. It would make you sound, if you were heard, like a four-legged animal.
Okay.
And so I figured, well, maybe I can trick them. Maybe it'll work. I don't know, but I've got to try it. So I started doing that. When they stopped, I would stop. And then I could tell, I could hear them. I could tell that they were browsing. So when they started browsing, I would move up more, move up more, move up more, until finally I was up to an area that it either went straight over the other side of the mountain down to these apple orchards, or it dog-legged. You could make a choice right there, and dog-legged back down along the other side to basically where I first came up. It would make like a big loop right in there. And there was a stone wall between the path that I was going to be on and that dog leg. So my objective was to get out beyond that stone wall so that I would be facing them, because I knew there was a beech nut grove in there that they would be feeding on. And that when they simmered down again and they came over that stone wall, if I was lucky enough, I'd be able to harvest myself a deer.
Right.
Well, I came up to that part of the dog leg, the first part of the dog leg, and it's sort of open. It had some big old pine trees. They're big, thick pine trees, not heavy vegetation or anything like that in there. And as I approached it, I'm looking to make sure there's no grouse in there's no squirrels in there. I don't want them scaring the deer, and then that's going to wreck my chances. I
Right.
felt extremely lucky, but I'm trying to control my breathing and everything. That, wow, I can't believe it. I'm in the spot, you
Right.
know. It worked, but you don't want to get all beside yourself there. So I scanned the area and I didn't see anything in the area. So I set myself up so I was directly facing that stone wall. I just moved into that like section of the dog leg there. It was like a U, about a quarter of the way in. On the side of the dog leg, went back down the mountain. There was a brook that came out of the top of the mountain called Drake Brook that ran parallel to that path that went down. So, anyways, I set myself up right there, and I could hear the deer coming. And I just scooched down just a little bit because I don't really have any cover there,
Mhm.
and I don't want to move around. I don't want to have to move my head around. So I'm set. And that's when I noticed something off to my left-hand side, my 9 o'clock position. Just in my peripheral, I seen movement. And about 35 yards away. And so I kind of cocked my head just a little bit and looked, not using my peripheral, but kind of looked over there at the 9 o'clock position.
Right. Right.
And sure enough, there was something laying there next to the tree. And I figured
Laying?
pardon?
Laying?
Laying. Yes, it
Okay.
was laying there.
Okay.
And that'll come into play because I didn't see anything when I first got into that little bit of an area there. And so now I'm thinking it's probably a deer, probably a buck,
Mhm.
because not with the does. So I'm getting ready to draw up on it. I'm like 45 between that stone wall and that what's laying next to that tree at 35 yards away. So I was brought up being told that you can't shoot a deer laying down. You should not shoot a deer laying down. It's not fair. And of course, they came up with the stories that if I kept that deer and I bring it down to a weighing station, they're going to know you shot it while it was sleeping, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And it's for the people listening out there. And it's like,
Right.
well, I don't know. I don't. This is what my elders told me, and so I'm
Right.
not going to shoot a deer that's laying down.
Right.
Well, now I can hear the deer getting closer to that stone wall. So now it's got my interest. So I'm trying to maintain, between the two of them right there. And as I shift my eyes, not my head, but if I shift my eyes back towards that stone wall, that's when I notice it moving again. It's starting to get up, but it's kind of scrunching up to the tree, still low.
Mhm.
So now I'm thinking, because I kind of looked over at it and I'm like, that's not a deer. It had its head around the other side of the tree, so it can't see me. I'm thinking it's a big bodied animal. It's got to be a bear.
Right.
I mean, all these things are running through your head because you only have seconds to put all the information together.
Right.
And it started getting up some more, and I'm like, oh gosh. I said, that's a guy. Okay, it's not standing, it's crouching, but its head around the other side of the tree. That's a guy. So now I got to kind of put my attention back on those deer because I have to make a move here. I have to move myself out from that 9 o'clock position because I realize that I'm going to be invisible on his peripheral. As
Mm-hmm.
those deer come over that stone wall and they go between us, I'm going to get shot. I could
Yeah.
get shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Sure.
And for states as shotgun only, the majority of guys use buckshot. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a high chance of having an accident happen there. So I
Right.
decided what I was going to do was I was going to only move up. I could only afford to move up just a couple of feet because I didn't want too much movement going on there. And I'm crouched down again, and I'm waiting for these deer, only seconds, and it's standing up. And now I'm saying to myself, this is a big guy. This is a big guy. He's kind
Right.
of
Dude.
got my attention, but his head's around the other side of that tree. And I'm like, wow, it was he's the biggest guy. He's the biggest guy I've probably ever seen. I've seen some pretty
Mm-hmm.
big guys. Um, but now he's fully erect, standing, holding that tree with his head still on the same side of the tree. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I'm still saying to myself, man, these deer on the other side of the tree, I'm trying to make decisions here. But at the same time, I'm looking at him and I'm going, and I'm calling to him because he's so tall. I've never seen a woman that big, let's face it, let alone a guy. But
Right. Right.
I'm looking for a branch, a twig, something on the tree, a piece of moss, and I spotted a piece of moss, and it actually lined up with the back of his head.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going, okay, good. I said, because when this is all over with, I'm going to go
I'm
over
gonna
and
go
measure
too.
that tree. I got to
Right.
meet this guy or whatever. Well, all heck broke loose on the other side of that stone wall. And when I say all heck broke loose, I mean, I heard boulders clacking. I heard tree branches or limbs snap, and I heard what it sounded like something came out of one of the trees or two of the trees. And I heard if anybody's practiced martial arts or boxing or anything, when you punch a bag, you get that thud, that
Yeah.
smack noise.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounded like. It sounded like a knockdown, drag out, a beating. Something on the other side of that stone wall was getting a beating.
Damn.
So I'm concerned. I'm a bit concerned, because I know that it ain't bucks fighting over there. And that's when he stuck his head around my side of the tree. Because I'm still trying to keep an eye on this, if he's what he's going to do, because I'm totally expecting the deer to just be running everywhere. I don't know what's attacking them, that they're being attacked.
Yeah.
Well, he stuck his head around my side of the tree. He had his right arm on the tree, his left arm on the tree, and he put his right leg out for balance. And that's when I knew something was quite strange. Quite strange right there. I knew that there was something really different going on here. And he picked me up in his peripheral. He was looking over that stone wall, and he glanced over at me, just like I figured if it was another hunter, I'd be in his peripheral. And he glanced over at me, looked back over at Stonewall, and then he snapped his head at me. And
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, yeah, I'm like, he didn't know I was here. He had no clue I was here. I don't even think he knows what I am, because it didn't register with him right off the bat. And that's when
Right.
yeah. So now it's like, forget the deer. I got my shotgun pointed directly at his chest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have no idea other than this looks like a giant Neanderthal. That's all I can tell people. They said, why don't you shoot it? I'm like, well, where am I supposed to shoot it? Okay,
Right.
where is this supposed to happen? Okay, and he, I tell people this. I go, it would have been so easy for him to just take off and run away, and I could have just gone down to the bar to calm my nerves and to get some free drinks. And said, "Hey, guess what I just saw? Whether you
Right.
believed it or not, cool." And,
Uh-huh.
it would have just been another story for whomever out there. But no, he had to make my life difficult to this day. As he stepped around that tree, he got his right leg out a little bit further. He let go with his right arm on that tree, and he fully swung his left side out around that tree. So he broadsided me. He was looking directly at me at 35 yards, and I got my shotgun pointed right at his chest, right at his chest. And that knockdown drag out is still going on over there. So I'm still trying to take in some information here, on what is going on. What
Right.
is this? This can't be real. I looked at my wristwatch. I can only tell you it was 10 minutes after the hour. I remember a plane going to Bradley International flew over me. I checked my breath. I blew out. Is the wind still blowing in my face? So he didn't get wind at me. And he he did something. He put both his hands up in front of him, about chest high, shoulder high, chest high, elbows in towards his waist, fingers together, not out, fingers together, and he pumped them at me 2 times. I'm like, oh. I said, what's this? What's going on here? This is. I have no idea what these things do. I've never read anything on this. I've never studied anything on this. I didn't even
Yeah.
know if anything was out there at the time, anyways. But he's got my attention,
Mm-hmm.
and I started lowering my shotgun because I took it to mean that it meant like, whoa, just wait a minute, So I started lowering my shotgun, and he started walking towards me.
Oh.
And he took his right hand, pointer finger, he pointed right to my chest. And then he took that same finger and pointed directly to his chest. Like I say, I've got some pictures up here that go along with the whole thing here. But
Right.
I'm sucking it in. I'm like, I don't know where this is going to go. This is something that's bizarre,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say the least. You like I said earlier, is I was trained how to fight. I've been in many, 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 many matches. I was in the service. I knew better than to run. From
Yeah.
growing up in the woods and everything. You don't run away from a predator. I don't know what this thing is really doing, but I do know it's trying to communicate with me. And he
Doesn't seem
walked
threatening for sure.
for sure. And every time he made a hand gesture or anything, he would look at me and he'd like, "Do you understand?" Like almost like, "Do you understand?" That's what
Hmm.
was getting my attention. And he started walking towards me some more, and he took both hands again, same distance apart, elbows into his waist, and put his hands out in front of him, palms down. And then he took his hands and he turned them palms up. And I'm like, okay, he's definitely trying to tell me something here.
Yeah.
What? I don't know, but I think I got that one there. I think that he snuck up on that tree, that he was at a pinch point for an ambush, that he was a member or the leader of that hunting party that were driving deer towards him, and that he had no food. That's what he's trying to tell me. And they were looking for food. And I'm thinking, is there going to come a time when I'm going to have to repeat any of this? I'm trying to control myself, and he starts walking towards me again. And this time, as he got closer to me, he pointed over my left, same finger, right hand, over my left and over my right. So I'm figuring, I think he's trying to ask me where the heck it came from just thinking back on, how surprised he was. Like, how did you get here? I don't think he was trying to tell me to get out of here, because if he was, he would have thrown something at me or chased me, or he wouldn't have been so peaceful from the get-go. So that was out of the equation. But now I'm thinking I'm definitely, because he's closing the gap. Now I got my shotgun down, slung, and it was sling on it so the barrel can point down.
Yeah.
And because I don't know where this is going to go with him. And he proceeds to walk closer to me. As he gets closer to me, when I first used to tell the story, it was really bothersome, for me to say this part right here. He was within 2 feet of me.
Wow.
I was below his shoulder. I'm 6'3", just a little bit above his bicep. Okay. He was well groomed. He didn't stink. And he had blue eyes.
Oh.
He proceeded to put his hand out in front of me, palm up, just about the same position as when he did it with the no food, looking for food or whatever. He placed it right in between us. Now my spidey senses are really tingling. Did he just want to disarm me, and only to get close enough to me to incapacitate me, or what's going to go on here? But I carried a sidearm.
Yeah.
And as I was trying to watch for body movement on him, because he still had his palm out in front of me, and he took his other hand, pointer finger, he pointed to the middle of his palm. I had seen the backs of his palm, the scars, the fingernails, everything. I'd seen the forearms close up. But he had his finger on his palm, and as he was doing that, I was trying to maintain, like, watching for body movement, and at the same time, I'm slipping my hand down to my handgun. I'm trying to get to my handgun, and just as I get my palm on my handgun, he didn't like that. He went like that, pointed to his palm, tapped his palm. What was adamantly, he wanted me to look at his palm, and I'm like, so I'm going to look at his palm. So I'm looking at his palm, and I'm trying to figure out, what is he trying
going on? Right.
Yeah.
What is he trying to tell me about his palm?
Right.
And it took me many, many years to really figure that one out. Many, many years. And that's when you don't mind if I have a smoke here, do you?
You go right ahead.
No.
Thanks. That's when I took the initiative right there, because I figured that was probably pretty much, he was waiting for a reply from me. And like I said, every time he did something, he would look at me like that, and like he was like somebody teaching somebody. Are the lights on? Are the lights on? And
is he wanting you to give him something?
Well, I can tell you this now. I know. Okay, there was something in his palm that I did not understand. He had no lifeline. Okay, and I guess some people are born with no lifeline. But the other thing is, after talking to a lot of Native Americans, is they feel, and I feel now today, that what he was really trying to show me or represent was a covenant. That at one time, indigenous peoples did have a covenant, or some indigenous peoples did have a covenant with them. But I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about that. So I took the initiative. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to repeat back some of the sign language as the way I understood it. So the first one I did was I pointed to his chest, because I understood that to be not a challenge, because most guys will understand. You walk into a bar and you pick out the ugliest, drunkest guy you can see in the bar, and you point at him. You point at him and you go, you're yourself first, and you go, yeah, you're mine. I'm going to get you, or whatever. That's a challenge. He didn't do that. He pointed to me first, which was respect. It means one of two things. It means we're brothers, or we're equal masters of the wood. And I just figured, okay, I'm going to just go along with that there. I pointed to him first, and I pointed to me. And he's looking at me, and I'm like, I figured I would do I don't have any food. Not that I want food. I don't want to be asking for
Right.
anything. I, I don't have any food.
Yeah.
I'm not food, but I don't have any food.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am not the
And
food.
Yeah.
yeah, and the last one was, I figured, well, this ought to be a good question. I'll point it over his shoulders like he did to me. Like the way I understood it was like, where'd you come
Where
from?
are you
How'd you
from?
get here?
Yeah.
You know, and I figured that we could go from there. I'm having these thoughts in my head like, we're going to have communication. Maybe we can sit down, have a smoke together, or who knows? This is
Right.
unbelievable. Like I said, who are you going to tell this to? Almost 38 years
Right.
ago. Okay. I
Right.
wish he did just run away, maybe. All right. Well, that's when he did something else as he looked at me and he bowed his head to me and he turned partially towards that stone wall and he whooped 3 times. And I can tell you exactly, I can compare it to another animal. Go to a lion cage.
Mm-hmm.
When the male lion roars, stand up close to that. It's
Yeah.
exceptionally bass.
Mm-hmm.
That bass, you can feel the bass in your body.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, you're only hearing about this roughly 5 to 6 years ago. Nobody had ever seen him whoop. Okay. And so that was very difficult to explain to people, that, hey, I saw him, that I can tell you for sure they do whoop,
Yeah.
but it doesn't count unless you see him whoop.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he whooped, did his hands go up or did he just stand back and throw his head back?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you see that
Yeah.
picture?
In the
Yeah,
middle
with his
there?
hands up,
Yeah.
right up over here.
Yes.
He
Yep.
held his hands right up to his mouth like this,
Uh-huh.
like you make a cone like a person would do, and he whooped 3 times, about a second and a half in between each whoop.
Okay.
Then he looked back at me. He looked back over the wall, and he whistled. And I tell you right now, we used whistle calls when we were hunting, so we
Right.
could we would know where each member of the hunting party was, and it sounded just
Yep.
like a human being whistle. He went only really loud.
He's signaling your friend.
Yeah, and he did a hand signal again. He goes like this, facing that stone wall where the deer was. Now I know what's going on. That he was ambush point, pinch point, whatever, and they were hunting deer. And there was more on the other side of the stone wall. So I'm glad I didn't shoot. And he was signaling one or more or whatever. It was on the other side of the stone wall. And he points back in the direction that he came. So I
Okay.
said, okay. So he looked at me basically one last time, and he bowed his head like that at me. And his eyes, like I said, they're blue, and people ask me what color blue. You can't see them because of lighting in here. They're like husky blue. If you ever seen a husky's blue eyes, they're like
Marianne has several
Ion
huskies.
they're
huskies.
like ice blue.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, they're really brilliant ice blue.
Yes.
That's what color eyes he had.
Wow.
And that will get into part of it because of the DNA, not so much as a DNA, but it's a gene mutation.
It
What
is.
it is.
It is.
It's
I've
a
read that
gene
because
mutation.
I have blue eyes and it's a mutation. So
Correct.
yes.
And if you read the Bigfoot Quest magazine, which is really a scientific journal by Ray Harwood, he's done several or helped do several books, and in one he dug down. I didn't even know he was going to do it, but he did research on the whole, where do blue eyes come from?
Mm-hmm.
And they come from Dysnovians.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the mutation was. Okay, scientifically, he's got but you can look it all up if you get his little magazine. They're cheap, but he looked at me that one last time, bowed his head, and did what he did. He took off. When I say took off, he didn't run, he didn't skip, he didn't.
Turned around, walked away.
He walked what I would call, for his size, leisurely back towards that tree that he came from, and then went out further, about 55, 60-yard mark, turned back basically towards me, but I could see he was waiting for something to come from the other side of that stone wall. And whatever it was would not come across the stone wall. It would jump the corner of that stone wall pretty much, cross that path and have to jump Drake Brook. Well, knowing that is I wanted to get a look at this now. And whatever, and this thing comes running through those saplings where that knockdown drag out was going on. And it sounded like it was bigger than a moose that was really mad, and it was taking saplings down or whatever. And I picked up a glimpse of it. Now he was the color of his hair, okay, was what I originally thought. And if you look at these pictures, even though they were described at different distances, the computer helped us do the distance. Is you'll see, because of the complexion and everything, is at 35 yards, you would mistake it for being really hairy. And it wasn't. It was like you would be looking at me if my beard was all black and I had some hair on my cheeks right here. And if I had the same skin tone at that distance away, you'd think I had hair all the way up over here. But he didn't. So when he got closer, because of the way the sun glinted off his hair, I realized that it wasn't black hair, that it was indeed dark brown. You know how some people, you can mistake it for being black hair when it's not. You know. So he got out there, and this other one, I picked up a glimpse of it, and it was like a cinnamon colored, light brown, cinnamon colored, and it's headed towards him. And I knew it had to jump over that corner there, over the road and over the brook. Then this thing was booking. And when I say booking, I mean, when you hear stories of people coming out and saying, I think they can outrun a deer, or they've been seen running deer down. Oh, yes, they can. Most definitely they can. This thing was absolutely fast. I've shot deer on the run, and nobody's going to ever run away from one of these. If it was chasing you, it let you get away. Just get that in your mind right now. It was chasing you out of there for reasons that some people don't know just yet. But he got out there, and they kind of faced off to each other, but still almost a 45 towards me. And they started having this little conversation. Now they're pretty far away, but I could hear like the murmuring, or what you might want to even call the Sierra sounds. That's about what it sounded like. And it sounded like the big one was kind of chewing possibly the smaller one out, which was it was smaller than him, but it was above his shoulder. So I figured it had to go around 6'8" or something like that. Anyways, I measured him off on the tree, and I'll tell you that in a second here. But they had that little conversation, and then that big one pointed his finger right at me, like ratted me right out. And that little, ratted me right out, because I was watching all this. I'm saying to myself, well, I said, maybe I can follow them, find out more about them. Where do they live? Do they live in trees? Do they live under boulders? Is there a cave around here? I didn't figure any harm in it at all. I figured that if it wanted to get me, it could have done it a long time ago. Well, that little one took a look over at me, looked back at the big one, and then he snapped his head right back at me, like she was flabbergasted. The fact is that, hey, I don't know anything about that. I don't know, because technically I would have had to walk right straight by where they had set up an ambush point on the deer, but obviously they were fixated on the deer and not me. Okay. Well, at that point, the big one made another hand gesture. He pointed to the littler one, chest level, and he gave a hand signal to circle around me, like a half circle. He points with his hand. And then he pointed to his own self, and he did the same thing, only to my left-hand side. Now I'm a bit worried. I know that I'm not going to be following them. They don't want me to follow them. I don't want to aggravate them. I don't know anything about them. But I do know this, that I'm going to have to go over and measure off on that tree. So I went over and I measured off on that tree. And I measured 7'8". I just retired. I just retired as a butcher. So I I can measure with my hands and my fingers up
Yeah.
there. I use
Yeah.
my own body. My first inclination was to walk up to the tree like a little kid, put my hand on my head, and then on the tree, and then you discover, well, I can't turn around because I got to move my arm. So I faced the tree, put my hand on top of my head, and put my finger there, and then I measured up from my finger, and I
Yep.
come up at 7 foot 8 inches tall,
Wow.
roughly around 600, had to be 600 pounds fit. I mean, fit, r- really fit. This what was standing in front of me was a giant Neanderthal.
Hmm.
It had features almost like the high cheekbones, the brow ridge, like
Hmm.
a Native American. His complexion was matched pretty much that of his hair. The hair on the back of his hands was identical to uh, a human, a man who has hair on the back of his hands and only goes up to right
Right.
here. Then
Right.
you have hair on the back of your knuckles, or
Right.
between your fingers right here. Same thing, clean fingernails. Forearm, same thing. You look at your forearm or a man's forearm to see where the hair is, and as it goes up, it gets a little bit thicker. Same thing. His hair on the rest of his body was 5 to 6 inches long. Uh, his skin tone, and I've had people kind of jump me on that when I try to put the picture in people's heads, because what is red? You got so many shades of red. What is brown? What is
Right.
what
Right.
is what is black? It matched it to. It was like somebody who's really dark, like African American, but they're not. You're not. I hate to say it, but you're not. Like some Native Americans are darker than other Native Americans,
Yes.
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So its skin tone was of that. It almost perfectly matched his hair.
Hmm.
Um, I really didn't take note of his ears at all. I mean, he was checking me out as he was approaching me too, because that's where I come up with that he didn't know. He knew I was human. He had to know I was human. He had to know that was a gun I had in my hand, but he wasn't so sure that I was real. I don't believe he was so sure I was real.
You may have been the first one he ever saw up close.
Sure.
No, I don't think so. From the
You don't
reports
think so?
I've gotten in that, yeah, I have to say I know so. I think it disturbed him on how did I get there, you
Oh, how
know?
close you got? Yeah.
Yeah, I also tried to find the tracks, but there was a little bit of foliage on the ground. There was a knoll right near that tree, so
Hmm.
obviously he had crawled up to that tree. So I figured by looking at the track, the stride, I could correlate that to the height for this day.
Hmm.
For this day. For everybody. I had to take in as much information as I possibly could. So I seen where some of the ferns and stuff were pushed down. I didn't have a clear track, but I could tell that it had gone through there. I seen it go through there, so that was his track. So I
Right.
figured I would take a big giant step off of where I knew he had to come off of that knoll. I fell miserably short of that. So I took about a foot and a half back and tried to jump into it. I fell short again. So I moved back another 2 feet to almost 3 feet and took a short run and stop, jump. And I fell short. And I knew I had to get out of there. So it was at that point that I decided I was going to leave the area. But it was later on, not too many years ago, that I met a gentleman at a powwow. And I actually had the indigenous police. Some powwows, you'll see them there, some of them.
Yeah.
And they asked me what I was doing. I blah blah blah. I was looking for somebody to speak to, and they went and they got the storyteller.
Hmm.
Okay, it's usually always a female,
Right.
and because their stories, but their history
Right.
also.
Right.
Okay, so she came over. They brought her over, and she told them they could leave. She goes, "Hold right here for a minute." And she left and she went in the back of it was a big tent back there. They had the vendors and then they had a big tent behind there. And I figured she's going to get me somebody else to talk to. And she came back out and she goes, somebody would like to speak with you. And I went back in there and they had like, blankets and stuff to cordon off little areas for
Mhm.
somebody that was going to be changing to the different clothing and stuff.
Sure.
And it happened to be Chief Ernest.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
not familiar with Chief Ernest, he's the great great grandson of Sitting Bull.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was able to sit down with Chief Ernest one-on-one, tell him my story. He had questions, a lot of questions for me. And he had a lot of answers for me also.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he said to me, he said, you, because of some of the questions he asked me, he goes, you walk in two worlds. He said, that's how you were able to get to where you were. So that went down in my mind. And so when I try to, because my whole thing now is to try to stand up for other people, to get them to come out and talk about their encounters, because
Right.
I need to hear more on sign language from people, what they're seeing. And a lot of people are very wary of coming out and talking about anything. But if I make a stand, because I literally prayed almost every day for years and years and years, decades. Please let somebody else come out with this, and then I'll feel better and I can stand with them. I can say, no, the person's telling you the truth there. Nobody
Right.
ever
Right.
did. Nobody
Right.
ever did. 38 plus years, nobody ever did. So I figured, you know what? I used to ghost on these forums and just read. And I said, well, somebody's going to make a stand because I need information. So this is my stand,
There
because
you go.
I do have a message here, and you can probably already determine what that message is we don't need a DB. That's for sure, because it isn't going to tell
No,
you anything.
absolutely not.
We need to Jane Goodall this. We need to be able to communicate. We need to be able to um, get some answers. She's always been my hero
Yeah.
for a number of reasons. And for one of the biggest reasons is she had more brass than any guy that I know
That's
that's
right.
out there to be able
Right.
to do
Yes,
what
she
she did.
did.
She didn't just stand up to chimpanzees. She stood up to a scientific community that was all men,
Yeah.
all
Absolutely.
men, and they did not want to hear that. And even to this day, when you go and you want to present your evidence or whatever, whether it's DNA, you have to go up against your peers, and
Yes.
your peers have already wrote their doctorate or their thesis on whatever it is. That's how they got to where they are. And in order for them to sign off on your stuff, and they're going to critique everything, your exclamation marks, your question marks, your periods,
Exactly.
your commas,
Hmm.
everything on there, to find a way to get away from us. Because if they do let that go through, then they're going to have to admit that what they had is a little bit flawed.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's very difficult to do. Um, that was pretty much it. And then it was just pretty much a lifelong uh, thing for me to obtain information by, I've heard of the woo and everything else by reading things out of the Bible, the books of Enoch, you name it. You name it, I've read it, or I've heard it, and put it all down. And so I can't pinpoint it for anybody, because I don't want anybody to say, well, no, this is all, they're dropped off by UFOs and this and that. You
Yeah.
won't know that. You
You
don't
don't.
know
Yeah.
that.
You
Right.
don't know.
But I can guarantee you they do have something for us, and that uh, they are able to do something that we can't do. Our DNA has been spliced. They are the masters of the woods.
Yes.
They are one with the earth. And if you look at all the indigenous peoples, that is their belief.
Yep.
Okay. If you look at the Hopis, what were the Hopis given? They were given the land.
Mm-hmm.
What did the Aboriginals from Australia during the UN Council do? They went to the Hopis and gave them something for people to look up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
That was rightfully the Hopis, but yet it was over in Australia, because
Mm-hmm.
there's markings on that rock that actually
Oh.
are Hopi.
Or Hopi. Yeah. Yeah.
So those stories or histories or testimonies are true. When we get into looking at um, um, the mounds here in Ohio,
Mm-hmm.
well, there is a lot of evidence, people only hear bits and pieces of it because you have to dig deep. Well, I've had a
Right.
long time
To dig.
to dig deep. And
Right.
I assure you that it would blow most people's minds. Are they biblical? Let's just say that they are referenced. Okay. A
Hmm.
lot of things are referenced. Okay. But to what degree are they? And again, they can do things that we cannot do, but
Right.
we will not know how to do anything like that until somebody is brave enough. I wish I would have known some of the sign language back then, and it's distinct to them, so people understand that it's not American Sign Language. But yet, if you look at the one of the great meetings with Wild Bill Cody, I think it is, and he sat down with I think seven of the
Hmm.
nations chiefs. They didn't all speak each other's language,
Right.
but they all had sign language, and it was close enough to each other that they could now communicate using their hands. Okay. So
Yep.
obviously, this thing knew that I probably was not going to understand what it was saying.
Right.
And that's why it was using its hands on me. It knew that's what had really
Yeah.
bothered me too for quite a few years is it knew how to approach me. It knew what to do to get me to lower my guard. And
Hmm.
that is exactly what I did. Okay. I did really want to live through this.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
But so you can imagine after all these years, and I've heard a lot of stories, a lot of stories, and I've heard of some of the sign language being used. Now I study things like glyphs,
Hmm.
not to be confused with structures.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
glyphs, and some of the people that listen to some of the things that I had to say is they will subtly make attempts to communicate with you if you can be trustworthy, if you can be honest. And a lot of people say, well, I'm trustworthy. Like heck
Mm.
you are. Okay. Because one of the reasons why they no longer, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But um, one of the reasons why, and I firmly believe that they broke off the covenant with us because we can't be trusted. We are
Hmm.
warlike. And at the time they broke off the relations, it was during like a lot of the Indian wars that were going on, the British,
Hmm.
uh, the French, the Civil War. Okay, they think about it logically. They've
Yeah.
seen it all. They know what we're like.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much it on that.
Let
You
me ask
asked
you
Wayne.
this.
Yeah,
So do you think if someone was to, go out there using the sign language we have today, do you think that that's, is that a good place to start?
no,
Nope.
no, because I looked for it. That was the first place I looked. Okay,
Yeah.
then I started looking into all kinds of indigenous people sign language, and
Yeah.
I really didn't. I found things that match a little bit, but it was Chief Ernest that put it into context. Whenever you're doing something, you wanted to put it into the context of what's going on
Hmm.
at the time,
Hmm.
also. Okay, and that's what I was looking for is compare that. If you start studying indigenous people's languages, like Metis Cree, uh, we might have one word that doesn't really. I don't know. I can't say it doesn't really exist, but it means like maybe seven, eight, nine different things that are pretty close to each other.
Okay.
So you would have to have a good knowledge of what that is. I mean, this here is pretty much with the fingers closed,
Mhm.
not open, not out to the sides, straight up and down, pointed towards heaven, pointed towards the ground. Everything's in, just like that. That would have to be done exactly the same way, and pump them. It's like, think of it as hold on a second here.
Yeah.
You
It's like,
know,
whoa,
the
hold
hands
on.
see, yeah,
Yeah.
you got
Yeah.
to do the pointing correctly. You don't want to. I do know one guy. He did. They do a lot of research, but one of the guys on the research team actually did the finger pointing backwards. Okay, and he immediately started getting pummeled with pine cones and sticks and stuff. So it's like you have to be careful, but you have to keep your wits about you too. You want to take in the information. When they leave a glyph, you have to treat it. It's so subtle. The things that they do is only use what they put in the glyph. Don't change it. Don't change it up. You can rearrange it. And when you finally get it, you'll come back and you'll find that it's just like playing tic-tac-toe in the sand with your sister or your brother. You play one game and then you wipe it out.
Yeah.
And now let's play the game again. In other words, you understand the game. Now let's play the game again. Now it's going to be fun. So it's a teaching process. Let's face it. I mean, if they were just to just pop out in front of the average person, some people's hearts would probably fail them for what they're going to see, because they would want it. They would probably run. And I've known people that have had encounters that when asked if one came out on the trail in front of you again, what would you do? And they say, well, I would run. And to me, I'm like, well, why would you run? You know? And I've taken encounters from people, testimonies from people that it acted aggressive towards them only to be turned around because they had the withdrawal to wait a minute, hold on a second, and it changed the outcome to where they did get a hand signal back. And that's what I'm looking for. And I understood way back then that this is what I'm going to have to do in order to get them people to come forward, because I need more information. How much more? Right now, 26 letters in the American alphabet here. Okay. It isn't going to do you any good if you only know A and B. All right. We have to know a bunch of that. All right. I want to make sure I don't want to look at one and tell them, hey, I'm going to eat you,
Right. That's probably not the best way to start that conversation.
And I'm glad you laughed, because people say, well, geez, I was told this from the very first time I've ever appeared on a podcast, that there's no hype there. I said, what do you mean? We want hype. I said, I can't give you what I don't have. There is hype here. If you listen, there is hype if you know what to look for. But these were things that transpired in my mind that I knew that someday that people were going to need to hear this.
Absolutely.
And need to hear the reasons why. Otherwise, and I hear other people say, well, that was a long story there or whatever. It's just, first of all, it's a testimony. But if you wanted a story, there are people who take other people's encounters, and I'm sure you can buy one of their books and have maybe your mom or dad read you the book at night so you can go to bed, and sleep better. But this is not one of them. I will not just hand it to somebody like that.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. It's like, you need to share everything, because there may be somebody out there that has it. And, when you share yours, then maybe they will finally share theirs. And at this point in time, it's like, we need to stop doing what we've been doing because it didn't obviously work. We need to go about this a little bit differently, and we need to share our information, and we need to teach and stop, stop hoarding all the information, because it's not gotten us anywhere.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up. Two things there. The gatekeeper.
Yes.
I'm a gatekeeper. I'm a gatekeeper for a reason, because I've had people copy some of the things I said. Up until I came out, it was really believed in the community that they do not get in trees. They do not eat deer. They do not whistle. Well, guess what?
They do.
Now you're hearing people saying, "Yeah, it's a Sasquatch whistling." You don't know that. If you've never seen a dog bark and you heard a bark and a cat, and you've never seen a cat and a cat came running out of the bushes, you'd think that was what was barking.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about it. We have to Jane Goodall it. We have to leave our bias, kick the bias to the door, kick it to the curb, check ourselves in, and look at our own downfalls there. You have to keep an open mind on everything that's going on. And that's extremely hard for people, because it's so fractured out there that they want to go down and go, well, they're Nephilim. Well, it's okay. I'm not going to argue with you about anything like that. That's fine and dandy. Or they do this and they do that. That's great. Now you're having the Nephilim dropped off out of the UFO and stuff. That's cool. You got you're splintered in every single direction. Maybe you should get together with and look at what the UFO community did.
Yeah.
This is something that's like I said, for the ones that are listening in the beginning, if certain people knew that I was in the woods, then for sure you know that these are there also. What are the
Yes.
repercussions of that? Well, let's face it. We have taken land away from indigenous people.
Yep.
And for us to come out and say, yeah, they're there. We recognize that they're there. Leave them alone. Don't bother them. They won't bother you. And guess what? You're not going to do any strip mining anymore. You're not going to do any fracking for oil anymore. You're not going to
Hmm.
be able to strip the woods apart anymore, because you're going to have to recognize them for exactly what I call them, is the forest people.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It all comes down to greed. All comes
It
down.
does. And
And
it's
that's
rampant.
unfortunate. Yeah. It is.
It's rampant in the Bigfoot community. The information is there. I tell people, and they go, where do I find this? Well, I wish I had all my books. We've moved so many times that I've lost a lot of books, and everything that I have, I keep in my head, because this is what I pursue: is the glyphs, the eyewitnesses, to let them know to come forward, in the hand signals, you know, and I've got a few of them, and the glyphs that I collect, the information I collect. I'm a member of quite a few communities, and these people they trust me. They'll send
Mhm.
me a picture, and we'll say Florida, for instance. These people in Florida don't know anybody that's up in Nebraska.
Right.
And the people in Nebraska don't know them, but they found the same exact glyph. Send me a picture. Yeah, it's the same glyph, done the
Hmm.
same way. Okay, I didn't ask them what it was. Just send me the glyph that you have. Now I'm finding them in 2 locations. Now I'm finding them in 3 locations. Now I have to try to decipher, what does it mean? What do each one of these glyphs mean? And then finding out what they mean, we find things like, the rumor was for a while there, for black every Sasquatch or forest person that's out there, there's 100 black bears. Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. There's been so many sightings in the area that historically, the Winstead Wildman for one,
Hmm.
um, that would have to uh, uh, correlate to roughly 300 or better black bears just in the area I hunted.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be here today,
If there were
because
that many.
I would have been eaten by a herd of black bears.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's an awfully lot. And if we talk to anybody that knows anything about them, that studies anything about them, each animal, depending upon the size, has an area that they roam, they hunt in. Cougar, you're looking at what, 125 miles to 150 miles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not going to get 500 cougars in a 10-mile radius.
Mm-mm.
That's not going to happen. You might say maybe see 3 cross into each other's territories.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, to give a little help to some of your people listening. We mark our yards. We mark our yards with fence posts,
Hmm.
no trespassing signs,
Hmm.
hedges, whatever. Deer mark their areas by rubbing on trees, scraping,
Right.
different things like that. Bears do the same thing. Cougars do the same thing. So why not them? And
Yep.
the reason why not them for most people, because
Hmm.
they don't think they're Baez. But guess what? If you think that you're not Baez and you just try to correct that statement, then you're not looking at them for what they really are. I've had people call me, researchers call me, and I had one gentleman, and he said, "Well, had I heard about you 12 years ago, I would have thought you were a complete nutcase." I said, "Well, tell me what's going on. I'm going to share this with you. It's a real quick one." I said, "Don't you tell me what's going on first before you ask me a question." He said, "Well, we were headed into an area about probably 8 miles deep into the wilderness. We had to blaze a trail, on 2 of us on ATVs, and we had our walkie-talkies on us. And when we got in there, the guy that was behind me, they had used machetes and things like that to blaze a trail to get into this hot area. The guy behind him had lost his walkie-talkie, but when he got off the ATV, some pictures fell out of his pocket. He didn't realize that the coat he took had some family pictures in there. Well, 5 days later, they're headed back out. As they're headed back out on the same trail, they come across two rock cairns in the middle of the trail. In one of the rock cairns was a walkie-talkie. In the second rock cairn, there was one of the family photos.
Wow.
They had to remove the rock cairns. That's how they found the walkie-talkies. So I said, "So what's your question?" He goes, um, "Are we really? Are they that smart? Are we really up against something that is that smart?" I says, "You absolutely are. Kick your bias
Yes.
to the door,
Yeah.
because that's why you don't see them." Any hunter will tell you, spend a couple days in the woods and your senses, you can see further, you can hear better, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
smell better.
Well,
You
it's
know,
like put
all
those
the
stupid
animals can.
phone down for a little while,
Yeah,
Everybody's so staring at their smartphone all the time. Even when you take people camping, they'll be sitting
yeah,
around the fire staring at that stupid phone,
sure.
you
Yeah.
know.
Unfortunately for me, people say, "Well, why didn't you take a picture of it?" Well, first of all, let's go back in time here. Let's say 1986. Uh, I don't believe that there was a cell phone out there that took pictures
No,
at the
no.
time. So even if I had it on me, what am I going to do? Unzip my coat, unzip my vest, get my phone out, flip it
Yeah,
open. No, I had more things on my mind to be doing that anyways. Plus, I didn't want to carry a phone on me because I didn't need it ringing or anything
right.
like that on me. I was hunting to put some meat on my table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. And that's, people don't understand who haven't been out and had anything happen like that. They just don't understand how fast it happens and what happens to you. Your brain sometimes is just like it shuts down because it's like this doesn't exist. You
Right.
lose all that logical thinking and it takes you sometimes a minute or two to catch up.
Right.
So, if they haven't been out
Yeah.
there and they haven't ever been close to one, they don't get to have an opinion. Sorry. They
You'll
just
find
don't.
it. Yeah, you'll find that the majority of people that have, and I deal with the majority of the people that have close up encounters, we're all saying the same thing. You have uncanny valley. You have 5 to 11 seconds of one running by you at 50 yards out. You don't even know if it was your mother or your father or your aunt that just went running down the tree line or through the cow pasture. You have
Yeah,
no idea. At 50
absolutely.
yards, never mind 100 yards. And how did you
Absolutely.
measure the height? Up until, and it's not a brag, it's just a fact. You look back 7, 8 years ago and you'll find that everybody was saying, "Oh, they're like 15 feet tall, 20 feet
Yeah.
tall." Are
Yeah.
some of them out there like that? Probably are.
Yep.
Okay. But now you're hearing the majority of people saying exactly, they're going, "Well, it's 7 foot 8 inches tall, or really close to 8 feet tall." How did you
Mhm.
measure that?
Mhm.
How did you come up with that, in that amount of time, that you knew how far it was standing away from a branch or whatever? That's good, but you have to be able to do all that, and you don't have that much time.
Yep.
If it's over 11 seconds, then you are in a different class altogether. We look at the BFRO is a class A, 50 yards. So what are we dealing with here?
Yep.
We get a
Absolutely.
whole new alphabet going on.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, Ernie, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. I think we could talk for hours. You know,
Probably.
just there's all kinds of, you've got my brain, really, really going now. And you know what? We'll have you come back some night. We'll delve into some other things.
That'd be fine.
Um, I would love to have you come back because, you know,
It'd be
um,
fine.
I'm just, if you're not always learning, what are you doing? You
Yeah.
know,
Could I do something for myself here, if you folks don't mind?
absolutely.
Is
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do have an Etsy site. Okay.
Okay.
And predominantly, I only deal with what you see behind me on the shirts. Those are the actual iterations that were drawn for me. They are
Okay.
on the shirts.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I
Okay.
assure you, this might blow your mind, that people love the AI a lot better. Okay.
Mm,
Because to view something like this is very unique, and
mm-hmm.
there's, I think, 6 iterations with sign language on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm trying to get people to help with this movement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
To when somebody sees it and they come up, you can tell them, say, hey, we don't need a DB.
Mm-hmm.
They do communicate. They do use sign. And we
Right.
need to
Right.
spread that around.
So what's your Etsy page
Oh,
called?
sorry. Yeah, it's called New England Encounters.etsy.com.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Not everything is not everything on there is mine, because you have to understand the Etsy store.
Right.
Okay. The
Absolutely.
site.
Absolutely.
But that stuff right there is mine, and they are the only ones that are out there. Those have they are protected, so nobody's going to have a copy of those.
Okay.
But I'm just
Absolutely.
hoping that somebody can get me from point A to point B, which is
Right. Right.
at the rate I'm going with this right here, and it's been out there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just too much for some people to handle. But
It
hopefully
is.
people will
It
spread
is.
this testimony and share it and
Absolutely.
Jane Goodall this whole thing.
Right. Exactly. I'm right
All
there
right.
with you. Well, thank you so much, Ernie. And like I said, we'll be
Yes.
in contact and we'll have you back.
Sure, absolutely. Let me know when you're going to air this so that I can spread it around for you,
Absolutely.
help you guys
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
I
for
will
sure.
let you know when it goes up. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
You have a good
Thanks for
evening,
your
Ernie.
time.
You also.
Okay, tribe, that's all for this episode of the Bigfoot Wildman and Boogers show. Thank you for wandering the Missouri woods with us today.
If you enjoyed today's encounter and want to keep these legends alive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep track of the wild and legendary encounters that make this place so special.
We'll be back soon with more mysteries, more encounters, and maybe some more surprises hidden in the shadows. Until then, keep your boots muddy, your eyes on the tree line, and remember, show me your Bigfoot.